Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're reacting to an animated story time about somebody who was born and raised in prison.
Some prisoners die dreaming about the moment their feet will touch free ground, but not me. I was the only prisoner who didn't want to get out of prison. I know that you might be curious to know what the charge was that landed me up in prison.
I mean, yeah, I'm very curious. Why are you in prison in the first place and why don't you want to leave? Also, if somebody's born in prison, does that mean they have to stay behind bars?
But I don't even have an answer for that, as I was put in prison without one. Even though I spent most of my life in prison, I didn't stay in there forever.
Wait, so she's literally behind bars without a charge? Why is this woman in jail? What has she done? Is she like schizophrenic where she can't remember what she done?
My family and friends are all in prison, but that did not necessarily mean that I had to stay there as well. It took a lot of guts for me to get out of prison, but going back in, without a doubt, even harder to do. My mom was only 16 when she went to prison, a mere single moment that turned her life upside down.
Okay, so her mother is in jail at the age of 16. What did her mother do to get thrown into jail at that age? 16 is so young to be breaking the law. Like, I could not imagine me breaking the law at age 16. I think I'd cry.
All her dreams vanished into thin air when she pointed a gun at a burglar that broke into her house to scare him off.
Wait, so somebody broke into her house, so she pulled out a gun to protect herself and she still got arrested for that. America's a weird country. Like, only in America could you defend yourself and get put into jail.
It was her first time to ever hold a gun, and she didn't know how to use it. All she knew was that her mom had put the gun in her hands. She was terrified and trembling as the burglar took her money and attempted to escape through the window right in front of her. The money that the burglar tried to steal was all she had, and she was keeping it for the baby that was growing inside her.
Wait, so she was literally pregnant as well? Did she shoot the burglar? She might as well done that. I mean, if someone's breaking into my house, you just know that they're getting shot. If I don't have a gun, I'll pelt something towards them. Like, if somebody's literally breaking into your house, you need to defend yourself. Like, she's literally pregnant. That's actually quite sad that she got put into jail, isn't it?
Which was the reason for her mom's rage in the first place. On the one hand, there was a voice that spoke to her in the last moment before she pulled the trigger. It told her, "Don't do it, it's wrong." And then there was my grandmother's voice saying, "Do it!"
Wait, so the grandmother's literally encouraging her to shoot the person? Do you want to know something? The grandma needs to get thrown into jail.
And the voice of the burglar on the other end of the barrel begging her, "Don't do it." It was then that my grandmother screamed at her, telling her that she was a useless coward. She no longer heard anything, neither the voice of the burglar nor the voice of her mom, not even the voice coming from within her. All that she heard was the sound of the gunshot that still rings loud in her ears even to this day.
Okay, so she obviously shot the burglar. I support her in that. I mean, they literally broke into her house. Why would you be a burglar? Like, why are you literally breaking into somebody's house? If you break in, you're obviously gonna get shot.
Nobody in the police station believed her when she told them that she didn't mean to do it, and all that she remembers was hearing all those voices, and then the image of the burglar lying in a pool of his own blood. The last words that my mom heard from her mom were, "You will always be a bad girl."
Wait, so the mom's literally gonna abandon her daughter like that? That daughter literally protected the mom from the burglar and she's gonna tighten her and throw her into jail. Yeah, that is a bad mom.
And that was it. She was charged with murder, and she was sentenced to 35 years in prison.
35 years for protecting yourself and shooting a burglar to break into your home while you're pregnant. Nah, I'm sorry, the laws in America need to get changed.
If she was lucky, she would get out of prison by the time she turned 40. But my mom isn't very lucky. You might be thinking, how could a 16-year-old girl be imprisoned while she was still a minor? So let me explain. There are 2 states that allow the imprisonment of those who are between 16 and 17 years of age.
And them states need to change that rule because I don't understand why a 16-year-old needs to be put into jail. If they purposely go out of their way to kill somebody, then I could understand that. But not someone who's defending themselves.
As they consider them to be adults. And as if that wasn't already bad enough, she also had to deal with having a mean mom, and at the same time, being 4 months pregnant. She had lived her whole life in a hostile environment, and now it looked like she would die in one too.
Okay guys, so I didn't sleep last night, so I'm feeling really tired. But I feel so bad for her. Like, she really has had a horrible life, hasn't she? Her mom obviously doesn't love her. She's literally shot somebody at the age of 16 while pregnant. And now she's like in jail until she's basically gonna die.
Even if the place she was in was different, it wouldn't matter. There are bad people everywhere. anywhere, whether inside or outside of prison. And as for me, well, my luck wasn't much better than my mom's was.
I mean, yeah, that is very well known that, like, prison is dangerous. I swear in prison, they've literally got gangs that will, like, have intercourse with you or, like, do it without your consent. These places are scary.
I was in her womb throughout all of this. On her first day in prison, she screamed all day and night as she desperately needed some vitamins for her baby. She was extremely exhausted and afraid that her baby would die. Her baby was the only thing that was left for her.
I feel so bad for her. She's literally in jail and, like, she can't really do anything, can she? Also, jail isn't fun. Like, whenever you think of jail, you're literally sitting in a cell. She gets 3 meals a day, and 99.9% of the time, they're literally porridge.
She had to scream at the top of her lungs over and over again until she no longer could, for them to finally ask her what she wanted. She screamed because she was alone, screamed because she was miserable, screamed because her dark thoughts had taken over her, screamed because of hunger, exhaustion, and pain. She screamed and screamed nonstop.
I don't know if this is fake or real, but this is low-key making me, like, tear up. This is making me feel so sad. Like, this mother is obviously distressed. She's literally a teenager. This mother is, like, 2 years younger than me, and I'm definitely not old enough to have a baby.
And because she spent the last 5 months of her pregnancy screaming, no one knew that while it was just her 5th month in prison, it was actually her 9th month of pregnancy, and she was screaming because the time had come. Nobody knew that the time had come for her to give birth until I joined her in her screams when I was finally born.
So the mum literally gave birth to a baby in the cell. I swear if this happens in real life, the baby literally gets taken off the mother and put into foster or, like, put up for adoption. That is kind of sad. Like, technically they're stealing her child. Can babies be brought up in prison? I mean, I feel like that would be low-key really cool.
It didn't matter so much, though. The only difference was that the supervisor upsized her meals so that it would be enough for the 2 of us, and that the other prisoners looked out for Mom a bit more after she'd given birth.
Okay, that's good that, like, the other prisoners are literally looking out for her. I know women's prisons can be ruthless, probably worse than men's. So I guess her life in prison's gonna be slightly, like, more comfortable.
Although I don't have any memory of those tough days, I can honestly say that my mom's face was the only thing that kept me alive in the absence of the proper health care that a newborn like me needed.
Wait, so they're not gonna give the newborn healthcare? Did she literally give birth to the baby and then just, like, leave it? Are they not gonna take the baby to hospital to get, like, its shots and, like, its checkups?
Prison was originally designed to break a person mentally, emotionally, and physically. My mom was pushed to the verge of madness while she was still a kid, but the only thing that kept whatever was left of her sanity intact was me. When I started to learn to talk, I learned the word grandmother from my mom. She used to tell me stories about my grandmother, who never visited us.
I don't know why she's telling her child stories about the grandmother. The grandmother literally doesn't love her whatsoever. Like, she literally abandoned her in prison while she was pregnant. She didn't even come and visit them. Like, that's awful.
My mom knew that I was the only family she had left, but I couldn't help thinking that somewhere behind the walls of the prison, I had a grandmother. It's fair to say that even though there was no blood relationship between me and the women and girls who were imprisoned with my mom, they were still like family to me. None of the guards cared about me, except one. Her name was Zoya. She had Russian roots and she used to bring me clothes and diapers.
Okay, so a guard loves the child. That's cute. I mean, technically, the child's just gonna be brought up with loads of women and, like, loads of cool aunties. I'm low-key kind of jealous. Like, obviously, I don't want to be brought up in jail, but I low-key want to go for an experience like that.
She was the one who gave me my name Vera, which means hope in Russian. She even taught me how to read and write when I turned 6, wanting to prepare me for the day on which I'd get out of prison to see a world I had no clue about.
Wait, so the baby stays in prison until the age of 6? I don't know if this is a real thing. Is it? Let me know down in the comment section.
One day after she'd spent almost a whole day trying to convince me to sit and learn, I asked her, why would I learn to read and write if there's nothing for me to read or write about around here? She answered, who said that there's nothing to read? There are millions of books out there that are full of stories and information about everything in the world.
Wait, I've literally just realized something. They're treating the baby as a prisoner as well. Yet again, why is the baby in jail?
Then I was curious, so I asked, and how can I get these books? She said, tomorrow I will bring you some comic books. The next day, I waited by the cell gate holding onto the bars, waiting for Zoya to come, but she never came. I sat day after day in the same spot waiting for her to show up.
Okay, so apparently the prison guards now abandoned the baby like the granny did. This poor child has literally been put through so much. Imagine being brought up in jail and now somebody you were close to's abandoned you. Where has the prison guard went?
Finally, I asked one of the guards who'd taken her place, and she told me that Zoya wasn't coming back. Eventually, the hope I'd had about getting the books started to fade, but that was far from the worst thing that was about to happen to me.
Okay, we're gonna find out the worst thing that's gonna happen to her. I've got a feeling the mum's gonna like automatically hate her. I just want to know why she's literally in jail.
My mom started treating me differently. She was moody all the time, and I could hear her crying all night. She no longer liked talking to me or sitting next to me while we ate.
Okay, so apparently the mother now has depression. She might have depression or that other thing where like a mother gives birth to a child and then hates them a few years later. What's that called? Is it called like post-birth depression? I don't know. Sometimes whenever a mother gives birth to a baby, they'll love it for a short amount of time and then hate it.
Can you imagine what it's like to be avoided by the only person you have in the whole world? I endured weeks and months of neglect. I didn't know what to do. One day I couldn't take it anymore. I was so mad about the way my relationship with my mom had changed. A woman who was a few years younger than my mom approached me and asked me to move away from the corner in which I was sitting because she wanted to sit in it. I refused, so she pushed me. I fell on the floor and cut my hand. I learned in prison that everyone wants to be the tough guy, so they won't fall victim to someone else who's stronger.
Okay, we just got a load of information. She literally got assaulted by like a prison person. Why is a literal 6-year-old getting abused in prison? I'm sorry, but this just wouldn't happen.
Everyone struts around to show how tough they are, but I didn't need to prove how tough I was to anyone. Everyone treated me like a child, but suddenly they had all stopped doing that, and I didn't understand why.
Okay, so they all treated her like a child and really good, and now they hate her. Technically, she is still a child, so why did they hate the child?
I couldn't just sit back and not do anything about what that woman had done to me, so I stood up, dusted myself off, and pushed her back. But she was so big. The rest of the prisoners surrounded us and started to chant, "Fight, fight, fight!"
What is going on? Like, where did this literally come from? Also, you guys, I'm gonna say it again, I'm very tired, so if I seem a bit out of this video, just know that's why. I don't know why, but I pulled an all-nighter and I regret it.
But the fight was over before it had even begun. Some prison guards approached us to break up the fight. One of them grabbed me by the hand and took me to the office of the chief prison warden. While we were on our way, and without any warning, she punched me in the chest. She treated me exactly like one of those prisoners. That punch somehow took my breath away, but I didn't fight back.
So she literally got punched by a prison worker. Where is this prison? Like, this prison literally seems like hell. Every single person in the prison's getting abused.
I only looked at her with great anger and frustration. I looked around everywhere trying to find my mom, but I couldn't find her. Suddenly, my anger turned into gut-wrenching sobs. That guard saw the anger and misery burning in my eyes, so she looked at me and said, "Your eyes will get you in a lot of trouble. You have to understand that there's no place for you here, but if you ever want to have a chance of surviving outside these walls, you have to first survive inside."
She was literally born in prison. Why is she in the jail? Like, she literally was born there, so she shouldn't be in there. It's not like she shot the person.
I went into the office of the chief prison warden. I saw a pile of papers in front of him. Photos of me and my mom were on top of it. I wasn't sat in front of him because of the fight. Instead, he was about to tell me the news that would change my entire life for the worse. "You are getting out of jail," he told me in a cold voice.
Okay, so she's getting out of jail and apparently that's the worst news ever. It's probably because she's so used to being in jail. Whenever she gets out, it's like weird. I've heard of that happening to prisoners before. Like, they're so used to being in the comfort of a jail. Whenever they get out into the real world again, they literally can't function, like they can't live.
Within 2 hours, I had my stuff packed and I was waiting in front of the cell for the family that was adopting me. I sat there waiting for the unknown. Who was this family? And where were they taking me? And as for my mom, well, she didn't even show up to say goodbye.
So she's now getting adopted? Why is she only getting adopted now? Surely she should have been adopted whenever she was like a little baby. This little girl was literally born in jail and now she's finally getting adopted like the age of 10.
A tall man wearing a suit and a short fat woman who was wearing a colorful dress arrived. The way they looked was strange to me. Why is the lady wearing gloves? I asked myself. The weather wasn't cold. Let's just say that our first meeting was okay, but not exactly comforting. I didn't want to go with them, but I had no other choice. First, I'd been abandoned by Zoya, and then by my own mom.
So the whole time she's literally been alive, all she's known is abandonment. Getting abandoned by her granny, her mom, the prison guard. Is she gonna get abandoned by this family?
We tried over and over again to visit my mom in prison, but she refused to see us every time we went to visit her. I came back from those visiting attempts every time with 1,000 questions in my mind. The only answer that Mrs. Thompson had for me was, "When you grow up, you will understand." I soon went to school, and guess what? There were a lot of books. I bought some of them for my classes, and there were so many in the library. But despite how happy I was about all these books that I could read, I felt sad for Zoya and my...
Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest, you guys. The end of the video was literally there. Like, I know she's just gonna live a life and be happy. Sorry if this is a bit of a bad video. I'm absolutely wrecked right now. Anyways, if you all enjoyed this video, if you did, press the big red subscribe button. And yes, I will see you all in my next video.